So we measured angles in class today, but let's talk about measuring angles within a triangle. It's really the same method. All you have to do is take your protractor and find the vertex of the angle you're first going to measure. So you're going to put your marker directly on the vertex. And once again, you have to do this very carefully. Line up this 180 degree line on that spot. Exactly. You have to do it just right. Now you'll see the side of the triangle goes up to the 40 degree line. I know it's not 140 because this is an acute angle and it would be less than 90 degrees. So if I draw this in correctly, I would write this as 40 degrees. Now I can turn this and go to my next angle. Now looking at this, I know right away it's going to be an obtuse angle. So I would again use my protractor and I would put the point right on the vertex of the triangle. Now I have to make sure it's slid down onto the side correctly and lined up, and it falls right at this 110 mark. So on this angle right here, this large angle would be 110 degrees. Now, when you're doing angles and you're trying to figure out what each of them are, we talked in class today how the three angles always equal 180 degrees. So a lot of times in your math book you're going to see a problem like this. They will say, well, here are two angles, and they want you to find the measurement of the third angle. Only you don't get a protractor. Well, it's really easy to do mathematically. I know you can figure this out. All you have to do is add up the two angles you have, 110 plus 40, that would be 5, and then what's left before you get to 180. So you can just subtract, or you can do it mentally, and that would be 30 degrees is left. Well, let's try it. Let's measure it to make sure this is accurate. So again, I would put my point on the vertex. Notice you can go from any direction because there's numbers on both sides of the protractor. So I put the point directly on and make sure it's lined up correctly. And there it is, right at the 30 degree mark. Now I know it's not 150 degrees because this is an acute angle. So that would be 30 degrees. Just like that. Now we're going to do another one. It looks like this. Now when you first look at this triangle, you might not see it. But if I turn it a little bit, I might not see it still. If I keep turning the triangle, aha, now you'll see it. We learned today that this is called a right triangle because it has a right angle in it. Now let's double check this. We will measure it. We'll put the protractor with the point right on the vertex, line it up, and it is. It's 90 degrees. Now the symbol for a 90 degree triangle, we talked about this, is a square in the corner. So I don't even have to put 90 degrees there. That symbolizes 90 degrees. I don't even have to write the number. Now I want you to think about this. Half of 180 is 90. So I know that I need to find another 90 degrees somehow to add up to that 180 for all three angles. Well, think about this. What is half of 90 degrees? If I were to divide 90 in half, it would be 45. That means these two angles must equal 45 degrees each. 45 and 45 would equal 90. 90 plus 90 equals 180. You'll see this triangle often, so I want you to start to memorize this. When you see a right angle, you know the other two angles have to be 45 degrees. But since we're learning how to measure using a protractor, let's try it. Let's line this up right on the vertex and make sure it is correctly lined up below, and there it is. It's right on the 45 degree mark, right between the 40 and the 50. That's 45 degrees. So let's try this side. Now look, I can go backward and forward whichever side because there's numbers all the way across the protractor. Line this up on the vertex and right on the line, and it falls directly in between the 40 and the 50. That would be 45 degrees. So each of these angles would be 45 degrees. But like I said before, you're going to start to memorize this one. That would be 90 degrees, 45 degrees, and 45 degrees. Would total for 180 degrees. So you know that mathematically, but I want you to prove it to me. How can you prove that all three of those angles equal 180 degrees? Well, we did talk about 180 degrees being a straight line, or another way of saying it, a straight angle. So what we're saying here is that each of these are going to add up to be a straight line. So let's try it. Here's how you do it. I want you to take your angles first. Oh, before you cut anything, put a dot in the vertex of each of the corners. That's important so you know exactly which points to line up. Alright, so then I'm going to cut off the tips of the triangle. I'm going to cut off each of the angles, and then I'm going to line them up. So here we go. First, when I line up, I'm going to put this point so that it is on the line. Now I want to find the next point, and I want to make sure all of the dots that I drew in each of the vertexes, I want them to all be touching. So I need to put it right next to this one so that it's touching. Now can you see it already? You just slide it over with a pen. There we go. And you can see these two, 45 and 45, they equal 90 degrees. You can even see that 90-degree angle. Now I know you can visualize this. This should slide in. Again, using that dot, have all three dots touch in the center and slide it up just a tad. And there it is. It equals up into 180 degrees. So from this point all the way to this point is 180 degrees. Now it's a kind of an odd shape there because I didn't draw all of the angle marks the same, but this is a half circle. Now you know a full circle is 360 degrees. A half circle, yes, is 180 degrees. Let's try this again with this triangle. It will work as well. Before I cut, you need to put a dot in each of the vertexes because that is your marker, how to line them up. And then you're going to cut off the corners. There we go. And now we just have to line up the dots. So I'm going to use the line as my guide. This one I'm going to stick right next to it. And this one, can you see it already? It's going to fit. It's going to fit exactly if I mark up all the dots. Again, from this point all the way to this point, all the way to this point, 180 degrees. Now, when you're done with this, I want you to take a piece of tape and I want you to glue down your proof, or tape it down just like this. That's your proof that three angles of a triangle actually do equal 180 degrees.